I want to share with you a little bit about the work of the missionaries that HeartCry is supporting in South America. Presently, we are only working in the country of Peru, where we support just over 20 missionaries. And well over half of those missionaries live in Lima, a city of 10 million people, which is approximately 1/3 of the population of Peru. The rest of the missionaries, most of them live in a northern coastal town called Sullana, and then 2 of them are working in the jungle. Most of the missionaries that we support there are pastors and church planters. A few of them work in women's and children's ministry, and some of them are dedicated full-time to evangelism. In 2007, and those of you that follow the ministry may have heard about this, at a conference for the HeartCry missionaries and for some others, Brother Paul and the other speakers really laid out for the missionaries what the gospel is. And the missionaries were challenged to understand the doctrine of regeneration, to come to a firm understanding of the true gospel. They were challenged about superficial evangelism and about having a low view of conversion. And thankfully, most of the missionaries wholeheartedly embraced the teaching that they received, and they embraced the doctrines of grace. And subsequently, it impacted all of their ministries. And Brother Martin Zacharias, who's the pastor of the primary church that we work with there in Lima, began a class for pastors that began, I believe, with 11 men, where he began to teach them doctrine and to help them to go deeper in the understanding of the gospel and of these doctrines. And what began as a simple Bible study in his home grew and has now actually become a Bible institute that has impacted many, many pastors in Lima and is actually beginning to impact many other parts of Latin America. Through the internet, the conference that happened then and the work that has been happening since then has become known to other parts of Latin America. And actually this past month we were down there for another conference, and there were brothers there from Colombia, from Mexico, from Chile, from Argentina. Some tried to come from Venezuela. And in each of those places, we've discovered that the Lord is awakening people to the true gospel, to the doctrine of regeneration, to the need to get away from superficial evangelism and to the doctrines of grace. And so we're very grateful for what the Lord's doing. And through our missionaries in HeartCry, we're actually hopeful that they are going to be able to travel to some of these countries to orient some of these other people as they begin to grow in their own understanding of the gospel. Another exciting thing that has happened is that the work there has followed the progression, actually, that Brother Jono mentioned this morning. As the brothers have come to a better and truer understanding of the gospel, they have also become more zealous about evangelism. And those of you that get our magazine, you may have read about this, but they have become very enthusiastic about going out and sharing the gospel in public places in Lima. And one of the primary places that they go is a place called Kennedy Park in one of the nicer parts of town. And they've been going there 2 or 3 nights a week doing street preaching and doing evangelism. And one of the more remarkable things that's happened recently is that on one of the evenings that they were there, a man from Spain happened to be there, and he had come from Spain to Peru to buy drugs to take back to Spain and to sell in Spain. And on the night before he was to buy these drugs, he happened to go to Kennedy Park. And he was sitting there, and he heard the gospel. And the Lord converted him. By all appearances, he seems to have truly been converted. He made a profession of faith within a couple of days of having heard the gospel. He then, in counseling following that with some of the brothers, understood that he did not need to complete his mission of buying the drugs and returning to Spain. He has actually ended up staying there for as long as his tourist visa is going to permit. And he's hoping to get a work permit to be able to stay there and continue working in Peru. I had the privilege of meeting him this last month, and it was an incredible privilege. It was a challenge and encouragement to me to be faithful in evangelizing and just really evidence that the Lord is going to save people if we sow the seed of the gospel. And so I would just ask you all to, as it comes to mind, to pray for the work in South America, to pray for these missionaries, to pray that the Lord would continue to guide them and that He would help them to plant healthy and biblical churches.